Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you as the owner of an accounting, bookkeeping, tax business have the premier accounting firm in your area and get paid what you're worth. It's on this show that we address various topics to help you address things related to marketing, sales, pricing, onboarding clients, training staff, mental health, and so much more. Each and every week, we bring on the experts to help them actually share their tidbits of insights to help us, in fact, be the best that we can be. And today's going to be no exception to that. We have Alicia Katz Pollock, and she is a QuickBooks Pro rock star. She focuses primarily on QuickBooks Online, and as a rock star, she runs and operates Royalwise. She is a top 10 pro advisor and a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, and Alicia has 5 QuickBook books on Amazon. She leads weekly training webinars and runs a QuickBooks training program. She is a top-rated speaker at QuickBooks Knecht and Scaling New Heights, and will be joining us at GrowCon, our annual event for owners of accounting firms. With a Master's of Arts in Teaching, 30 plus years of tech industry experience, and a mile-long list of professional certifications, Alicia expertly blends deep subject matter expertise and patience guidance to provide easy and fun online learning. So, Alicia, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun because you just recently spoke at GrowCon and gave an amazing presentation. Love what you have to share. So I want to kind of go back to the beginning just to give it some context and help everyone understand what got you interested in the accounting profession to begin with. How did you become an accounting professional?
Well, it was actually kind of by accident. I didn't take the normal route in that people come in and they start off as a bookkeeper or accountant and then go into training. I actually started as a trainer first.
Okay.
I got a master's in teaching, and I was teaching 7th grade English, and 7th graders don't really want to be there. You know, school is their afterthought. And so I started teaching at the GED program, but my first love has always been computers. Like, I got my first Apple computer when I was 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I enjoyed, teaching people. And so when I left the community colleges and started teaching Microsoft Office and business classes, and I would help business owners with their Excel and their Word and their PowerPoint. And people started asking me about QuickBooks. I'm like, well, I don't know anything about that, except using it in my own business. But I started using it more and more, and I actually really loved using QuickBooks myself. And so I developed that expertise and completely shifted my what I was doing for a living.
I love it. I love the trajectory, the journey you went on to get to where you are. And so that leads me to my next question, which is why then start Royalwise? What got you to the point where you were in that entrepreneurial space of wanting to start a business, and why this?
Well, I was teaching in business colleges. I was teaching at Heald College. And then I also had my own side hustle of actually making astrology jewelry. And so I was doing those two things. And then I met my now husband, and he had a business doing web hosting and web development that he had called Royalwise. And he was looking for a name that was like comforting, like an appliance. And he ran a word generator to look for 2 short words that he could put together, and he came up with Royal and Wise. And so he was doing his computer consulting, I was doing my jewelry and my computer consulting. And when we decided to get married, we were also like, well, wait a minute, if you're doing computers and jewelry, why don't you move the computers over with me? And so we formed a partnership, and the rest is history.
I love it. I love it. So now, obviously, QuickBooks, quite robust, very popular, especially in the United States, as the small business accounting software of choice. QBO becoming more and more popular and common. Why? I'm just curious, why QuickBooks? There's numerous other platforms out there. Why QuickBooks? What do you like about it?
Well, it was what I started with back in the day, 35 years ago. QuickBooks was one of the only things around, or I think I started on MYOB and then moved over to QuickBooks. And
okay, good.
When I was doing the support for business owners and the business consulting, that's what people were using. And so I learned more and more about it.
So now that you're training, who do you typically train more? Is it staff, the owners, business owners, accounting firms? Who typically kind of gravitates to you?
Well, interestingly, when we started Royalwise now 11 years ago, my target was the business owners. That the business owners were who were calling us for the consulting. And so I
Hmm.
would go in and I would set up their QuickBooks and teach them to use it. And then I put together my own training course. Originally, it was with QB Express, and then I kind of just set what they were doing aside and started my own kind of training for it. And my target was still the business owners. It was teaching my clients as a group. And, I had a classroom.
Hmm.
People would come in from all over Portland
Oh, yeah.
and just to learn QuickBooks. And then the consulting piece of that grew. And when the social media stuff started, when Facebook was invented and I would talk about what I was doing, the social media algorithms started pointing me to bookkeepers. And so now my Facebook feed is 90% bookkeeping and accounting and 10% personal. And because of the algorithms, who found me were the bookkeepers. And I'm actually now kind of in a project to get back to the business owners again, where I started.
Interesting. Now, because you've been doing this for so long, I am curious to ask this question. Back in the day when both of us were offering training for accounting professionals and so forth, QuickBooks Intuit would offer the list of purchasers of the software that we could market to and invite them to our courses and in the classroom teach them these things. And then later with the acquisition of Real World, that kind of faded away and that whole business model changed. Do you recall that? And how did it affect you?
Well, that was actually probably right before the time that I came on, because when I came on, Real World was already their target.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So that kind of gives me some timeline for that. All right. So now, with regards to what you're offering, this is just I'm interested in your perspective here. Having focused so much of your training on the business owner and helping them understand the software and utilize it, one of the things that I've noticed when training business owners in QBO and so forth is that they would come in, learn it, but through the training, typically realize, you know what, this isn't why I got into business. I'm glad I know it a little bit better now, but obviously this is something I'd rather outsource and hire an accountant to do or take over for us. Is that something that you've also witnessed and observed?
In fact, within the first 10 minutes of the course, one of my first conversations is called, "Do you need a bookkeeper?" And we talk about, do you enjoy doing data entry? Even if you do enjoy it, are you good at it? And even if you're good at it, is your time better served doing your own, working on or in your own company? And
Love it.
so even when I do train business owners, I always suggest that they have a bookkeeper in their back pocket at a minimum for quarterly or annual reviews, if not
Yeah.
monthly.
Yeah. So in providing the instruction, what I've also experienced is very similar. Very quickly, they realize they're happy to know the platform. They're pleased to know enough that they're able to have conversations with the accounting professional. They're enough to be dangerous, let's say,
Yeah.
but they quickly realize this isn't why I'm in business. I don't want to be doing this hours a day, hours a week, or whatever the case may be. And so they're happy to know what they are learning, but at the end of the day, I think they quickly realize this isn't why they're in business. So I've likewise experienced that quite often. So let's go to the training that you're providing to owners of accounting firms, bookkeeping services, tax firms. Here they are. They're obviously providing this as a service, doing this for multiple businesses, but they need to stay current. They need to stay relevant. They need to train perhaps the staff that they're bringing on. What do you find as you're interacting with them as to how a firm owner can train their staff in QuickBooks software without recreating the wheel?
Exactly. I try and make all of my courses role agnostic, meaning that I'm focusing on the software and the accounting behind it, and so the courses could be taken by a business owner. The courses could also be taken by the bookkeepers, and then I have additional courses that are specific. So the way that I've designed the programs, it starts with a boot camp, which is actually a 6-hour fundamental workflows. What are your typical AR workflows and your typical AP workflows, and how do you use the software and how do you use the banking feed? And so that's the core curriculum. And then I have individual courses that are somewhere between 1 to 3 hours long that go deeper. I have a 3-hour course just on the banking feeds. I have an hour and a half just on reconciling. And I have a 2-hour course on payroll and an hour and a half on sales tax and running your 1099s. And so as as my clients would ask me questions, or the bookkeepers would ask me questions, I would design additional courses around that content, to the point now that I have over 40 different, very specific deep dives into different parts of it. And the way that firm owners can leverage this is, when you bring on a new employee, when you bring on a new team member, most of the schools, if they went for an accounting degree, for example, most of them don't touch software. They might go
Yeah.
into Excel, but they don't teach you to use QuickBooks. And so a lot of the time, a firm owner will bring on a new employee and their QuickBooks skills are not robust enough to dive in and start working with the clients. And
Yep.
that's where I come in.
I love it. Now, being a school, this is something I'm very familiar with, and it's the fact that individuals typically have different learning styles. Some are visual, some are auditory, some are through tactile exercises. They're doing different assignments and so forth. There's these different modalities that as individuals we prefer to learn and retain the information. How do you address those different learning styles in the training that you're providing?
Well, for my regular curriculum, it's emphasis on audio and visual, where I talk about it and I actually demonstrate it. So a lot of the time it's live without a net because I'm actually working live with the software. But hey, that's where editing comes in. And so all of the videos are demonstrations, and the person can watch the replay and then start and stop the video and do the things that I am doing. But the tactile piece is where the new books that I just wrote came into play. I wrote two different college textbooks for QuestivaConsultants.com. And those are meant to be used in the classroom, although they could be used independently. But those books are literally step by step, click by click. Click in this field, type this information, press tab, and walks you through the basics of running a business. And you get to learn it step by step by step.
Yeah. Now, this is where I'm going to get into some of the weeds here because I'm very excited to ask these questions. A lot of the people that I interact with as accounting professionals, they have their preferences. QBD, the desktop platform, QBO, the online version. There's the different trade versions that existed. There's the accountant's version. I mean, there's all these different platforms. How do you address, let's say, the difference between desktop and online? And what would you say to those individuals that are retaining, holding on to the desktop as they do, and their reluctance to move over to online? What are some of your thoughts about that?
Well, one of my favorite things to do is convert QBDT lovers into QBO lovers, because a lot of the time
Okay.
they're instant haters. They're like, "Oh, it's nothing like QuickBooks Desktop, therefore
Yeah.
it's terrible." And I have a really good track record of turning those people into QBO fanatics. I can name names, and the thing that people have to wrap their heads around, there's two. The first one is that it's live software and it has been evolving. And so if, you know, bookkeepers and accountants have been using desktop for 30 years, right? They're experts, they're pros, they know it, they can fly with it. It gives them a point of pride. They go over to QuickBooks Online and they're like back to ground zero. They don't know what they're doing. They don't like the feeling of the unknown. They don't like the frustration of learning something new. And a lot of that's a change management issue, that it's a matter of setting your expectations, that QuickBooks Online and desktop really are two different pieces of software. They both say QuickBooks because they both give you the same end results in these beautiful reports that allow you to manage and analyze your business. But how they get there is completely different. So I try and encourage the desktop experts to let go of their preconceived notions and to learn QuickBooks Online kind of from fresh, and to focus on all the amazing things that it does that desktop doesn't do, because those are where you can really transform your practice.
So give us a few examples of what QBO does that QBD does not.
The two that came to mind instantly for me were the banking feeds and projects.
Yeah.
So the banking feeds, QuickBooks Desktop has banking feeds, and they recently introduced a newer version that was kind of more like QBO. But QuickBooks Online's bank feeds are amazingly robust and save hours and hours and hours of time, and can be automated to do things that QuickBooks Desktop just can't do. So with Desktop, there's a lot more data entry involved. With QuickBooks Online, it automates some of it, not all of it, and you have to
Hmm.
master it. You don't just you don't just trust it to let it do its thing. But the bank feeds are one of the best parts of it. The other feature that is not in Desktop at all is the Project Center that's in QuickBooks Online Plus and Advanced. The Project Center is an amazing place where I actually train some of my business owners that the projects is their central hub. That's where they should go to manage their company. And then it gives them a one-stop shop where you can see both the income and the expenses related to one of the jobs that you're doing. And there's just nothing like it in Desktop.
So I'm going to add to that the third-party plugins that are actually available for QBO. There's a lot more integrations, and it can become much more robust when you utilize all those additional platforms that typically are not possible on the desktop version. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And, that's actually one of the conversations that I have with accountants and bookkeepers who are moving over to QuickBooks Online, because one of their frame of reference is, yeah, but it doesn't do everything that Desktop does, and then you have to go get all of those third-party apps and
Yeah,
plugins.
yeah.
But I see that as a benefit. QBO focuses on what it does well, which is the general ledger, and then you can custom tailor your experience by picking an app that does exactly what you need it to do instead of forcing a one-size-fits-all software to do it for you.
So another thing that typically comes up in the conversation, and I don't know how relevant it is today, but when it comes to QBO, I know that there's a good thing to say that here you are putting it out on the cloud. The servers are backed up. They're in secure environments. And I would dare say that the security for the cloud-based servers with Intuit are far more protected than your desktop or your laptop that you're trying to actually store all this data on. And the vulnerability of that, the likelihood of your hard drive going down and losing all this information, the inaccessibility of the sense if you're using truly a desktop, you can't take it anywhere, and remote access in. I mean, there's workarounds. There's definitely solutions to that. But the point is I think there's a lot to be said for embracing what basically is common technology today that might have been very, very new, say 5+ years ago, and maybe a little sketchy as to the security of it all. But to now recognize that having everything on your computer, your desktop, is perhaps a lot more vulnerable, insecure, unreliable than what I would trust the cloud to be. How would you feel about that?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't get as many questions about the security now as I did 5 years
Yeah.
ago, because people do realize that, wait, I'm already doing online banking. I'm already doing email. So if I'm not worried about the security of those, why would I think that this is any different?
Yeah. My point is more to the fact that if I'm trying to hold on to why I want to have the QuickBooks Desktop, I'm not recognizing that I am actually putting my clients at more of a risk at
No,
losing the
definitely not.
data, at becoming hacked than if I actually put it up on the cloud. Is that fair enough?
I think that's absolutely fair. The flexibility that you get from anybody being able to log in anywhere means that your team can be a lot more productive, and you're not spending all your
True.
time managing servers and server security, because
Yeah.
in order to have QuickBooks Desktop secure in a team environment, you have to have an IT department,
Yeah.
and they have to stay on top of all of the changes. And then your security is about your computer as well as the network. And when you go to QuickBooks Online, all you have to do is just make sure that your employees are keeping their computers up to date as far as security patches like that.
Uh-huh.
But your QuickBooks piece is completely safe.
Yeah, yeah, very good. All right. So, being kind of involved with Intuit and being the writer, trainer, and so forth for them, what are some of the things that are on the horizon that are exciting that for QBO especially we can maybe look forward to, or better said, where do you feel this is going as an accounting software for us in the future? What can we look forward to?
Well, the thing that I really love about Intuit is that they really take feedback to heart. It's all about the feedback. And a lot of the features that they're putting out now and building into the software are really game changers for a lot of businesses and what they can do inside the software. Like right now, they're working on a new deferred revenue feature in QuickBooks Online Advanced, where if you have annual subscriptions, you can actually, in accrual-based accounting, parse out the income. So instead of taking it all when you receive the money, you can actually parse it out through the year. So they're working on all kinds of innovations like that. There's also a new expense submission portal in QuickBooks Online Advanced where your employees can submit their receipts and your vendors can submit their receipts. And so that way it makes it a lot easier to bring in, you don't have to chase people for receipts. And eventually you're not even going to need the third-party apps out there, the
Yeah.
add-ons that do those things.
Very good. This is perhaps putting you on the spot, but I'm going to try it anyways. You're not Intuit. You're definitely not employed by them. But with the talk of Intuit becoming competitors to the bookkeeping profession, and some of the people that may still be a little skittish about the fact that they're offering bookkeeping services, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I've got lots of thoughts on that. The thing about QuickBooks Live is it's really only good for a very specific target market that the business has to have pretty straightforward, simple books. Once you get into inventory or third-party app integrations, then they're not appropriate for it. Personally, and this is definitely not me speaking in any way on behalf of Intuit, I see QuickBooks Live as kind of a training ground for bookkeepers, that the basic requirements that you need to join QuickBooks Live are an accounting degree or a year of experience. And I know that a year of experience is absolutely not enough to do good books. And so they're taking people on who are new to the industry and training them, which is great because there's a organized process for hands-on training for bookkeepers, which is wonderful. But when you are actually a business owner who is turning to QuickBooks Live for your books, you're either going to have if you're simple and straightforward, you might have a great experience. But if you're complex, they're not going to be able to meet your needs. And you're
Yeah.
much better off with a pro advisor who specializes in your niche.
Very well said. Yeah, you may recall me mentioning this at the conference, but I think there needs to be a clearer distinction between what bookkeeping services are and accounting services. And I think this opens up the opportunity for someone to really leverage their strengths in the accounting sphere. Because once you've got the books, then what? What does this information mean? How do I utilize this in my business? How do I use this to make more informed business decisions? Yes, I've got the data captured in these reports, but unless I understand what the reports are saying and how to read them, they just are pieces of paper. So at this point, I just think it elevates our importance as an accounting profession to really become a little bit more accountants in our services. So that's what I'd add to that. AI, obviously you've got Bard out there, you've got Chat GPT, you've got all of this conversation about AI. I have to presume all these third-party apps, QBO, they're all going to look at ways of integrating some subset of this. What are your thoughts about it as to how it may impact the accounting profession, what we might see on the horizon here in the coming few years? What are the threats, if any, do you feel towards the accounting profession?
Well, I think that the places where AI is going to be really valuable is in analysis. For example, if you're going to run your KPIs, it's nice just to be able to feed it the data and not have to export it to spreadsheets and do manipulations. And so for those types of tasks, I think AI is going to be a great time saver because we'll be able to generate analysis reports in a few minutes instead of a few hours.
Well
And I
said.
think that's a perfect use.
Excellent. Yeah, because the analytics that it can provide, the interpretation of that data is probably going to be a lot more robust than we can. And if not more robust, definitely a lot quicker. And being quicker, that's going to be a time saver and definitely allows us to then take that information to our clients in a more productive way. So we can screen it and definitely articulate it a little bit better than perhaps what it will. So love all of this. Next, being that you're the QuickBooks Pro, I have to ask, do you have any favorite techniques that help bookkeepers save time? Are there some quick little suggestions that you can offer us?
Well, I kind of like being the queen of the quick technique. I mean, I love all the hacks and all the little things that you can do. And so the first thing that I would say is pay attention to the baby gears, the little grid gears that are just above all of the lists of data on the right. So not the big gear up at the top, but the little gear straight down above the grid, that those have all kinds of options and settings for customizing your interface and how you want it to work. And don't overlook those because that's kind of the secret sauce to your productivity.
I love that. Anytime we can customize something to our preferred way of working, that is huge. So I appreciate that insight. The next thing I wanted to ask is regarding QuickBooks and your training and everything else. What advice do you have to bookkeepers as to missed opportunities within the software, things that either they don't know exist that the software can and could do, or things they just don't utilize?
I would suggest, clicking around, at a time when you're not working with a client, or even better, when you're working on your own books. Click everything, see what everything does, try it out. I mean, that's one of the ways that I became an expert is by implementing things that I didn't necessarily need for my business, but I just wanted to see what they do. So anytime that I can find a sub-customer to turn into a project, I do that. Or turning my website memberships into deferred revenue, even though I'm a cash-based company,
Yeah.
just so that I could see how the future works. And then the most important part is feedback, 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 feedback. If something is not working or you would like to see it better, please go up to the big gear and let them know. They meet every Friday. I've met the people who read all the feedback, and the more people who put in about a particular feature, they will actually talk about it on Friday and hand it to somebody off to program, whichever are the most common or most popular of the comments for the week.
Very nice. Now, at the beginning in your bio, I mentioned that you are a regular speaker at places such as QB Connect, at Scaling New Heights. You just obviously spoke at GrowCon. I'm very interested. What value do you find that these conferences have for the accounting profession? Why should someone go to a conference? What is it that they gain from it, do you believe?
Well, if I hadn't been going to conferences, I literally would not be doing what I am doing today. That when I went to my first QuickBooks Connect in 2015, I was still doing general computer consulting with QuickBooks, I wouldn't say on the side, but it wasn't the prevailing thing that I was doing. And I went to the conference and I saw the person on stage. I was like, wait a minute, I can do this. I think I would love to do this. And
Yeah.
so it started my path. So the thing with the conferences is meeting people and the networking, that when I go to a conference, I actually rarely get to go to any of the workshops. I might make one a day. The rest of my time is all in the hallways and at meals, chatting with people and getting to know them and making strategic partnerships and finding out who specializes in what, and really just making a community of it. And after all these years, I would actually consider some of the people that I met at conferences and in my Facebook groups better friends than my in real life friends around here in Portland.
Well, you definitely have more in common with them. You've got this whole business that you're operating. They can relate to that. They're dealing with similar struggles or challenges, and they can maybe share insights and suggestions. So there's a lot to be said about the community. And as you're mentioning, when you go meet, spend time in the hallways or at lunch with these individuals, just that social experience with your peers can be very, very helpful. Let's talk about the vendors that go to these conferences. This is something that I always want to try to point out because I think it's a missed opportunity for many of the attendees is what do you think of the vendor area? Here these companies come to obviously present new technologies, new services, new resources, and sometimes the attendees at the conference shun them, avoid the vendor section, feel as if I don't want to go there, get sold, but really it's a golden opportunity to become more acquainted with what's on the cutting edge of the accounting profession, what new tools and resources exist. So what are your thoughts about the vendor area?
The vendor area is actually one of my favorite places to go. And in fact, I'm a sponsor of Scaling New Heights this year. So I actually have a booth in the vendor area down there. But that's where you get to learn what's happening in this rapidly changing field. That, as we said, QuickBooks Online is meant to be a hub. It's all the third-party apps that solve your clients' problems. And the vendor area is where you get to see the demonstrations and try it out. And I walk through and I'm like, oh, there's that app over there. Oh, this client, that would be great for this client.
Mhm.
And then I'll walk to the next one. It's like, ooh, I have a client that would be perfect for this one. And so I usually come away from the vendor areas with all new services to offer to my clients to solve their pain points, maybe take some work off of our plates and automate something that had to be done manually before.
I love how you just explained that because I agree. When I encourage people to go to the vendor area, I encourage them to go with two perspectives. One is does this apply to my office? And could this help me internally basically make some process more efficient or something like that? But the other is, just as you mentioned, is this something that I could take to my client and it would help them? And then all of a sudden you become this expert, a bearer of good news of something that they can benefit from, that they didn't come to the conference. They're not aware of this new integration, this new tool, this new resource. And so here you come from the conference and you appear exactly as you should, that expert, to say, hey, by the way, I was at my event and I learned of something that I feel that you could benefit from. You need to check this out. And it's typically something that likewise helps you in the accounting space, but it's something that the accountant sees as beneficial to them. And so that's really a win-win. And it's definitely a way of looking at each of these vendors that you're going to see is this something that my clients could benefit from? Is it something internal that can maybe help my operations? And those two thoughts are very, very important. All right, so here's the next thing. You run a business, you've got Royalwise, you've been running this for a number of years. In the mindset of being a business owner yourself, that of an entrepreneur, have you worked with a mentor? Do you have some guiding light that kind of helps you run your business? Is there some mantra that you use to kind of keep you grounded on what's important?
Well, our company mantra is slow is fast. No, that's not it. Oh, great. I can't remember.
It's because I put you on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. So for us, we're a home-based business. It's my husband and I are the owners, and we have a small core staff. And we love running a business together because it allows us, we always have something to talk about, and we get to tax deduct our meals out because we always go talk about business.
Yeah.
And we are actually now at the point where we've kind of topped out on our own business expertise and what we bring to the table. And in order for our own firm to grow, we're actually about to bring in my own coach so that she can look at what I've put together and take me to the next level.
I love it. Recognizing that sometimes we are the ones holding back our business and need that outside perspective, that expert advice. That's very key. And I think it also helps accelerate the successes that we're about to have, only because they can keep us focused and prioritize things. So kudos to that. What advice would you have to other business owners, peers, where they're listening in right now and they're trying to run their businesses? What advice would you have for them just as a business owner as well?
I would say don't recreate the wheel. If there's other people out there who are doing well little pieces of what you need, make strategic partnerships with them. That as a community, they talk about the parallel of a rising tide raises all ships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Royalwise, we say that we don't have to fight over slices of the pie. Let's just bake a bigger pie. And so I absolutely love talking to other people who are doing similar things to me in a different way and finding out how we can cross-refer people.
Excellent. Well, Alicia, this has been amazing. This has been a lot of fun, very insightful. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to summarize some of what we've been discussing, and then I'm going to come back to you for a closing thought. Before I do my summary, I'd like to just point out that something that Alicia is doing is she's providing some information in the episode description for our listeners to go take advantage of a 23% off coupon. This is a coupon that you can take advantage of. There's also information regarding her premier course that she had alluded to, where most people start, which is the QBO Bootcamp. So go check out that information, go get the coupon, and take advantage of this discount that she's making available for those that would like to check out her programs and obviously learn more about QuickBooks Online. It's here that you're going to get the confidence and the tools you need to be able to work more efficiently in that software, whether it be yourself, your staff. Definitely go check out the episode description for more information on how you can check out Bootcamp and, more importantly, the other curriculums that are available at discount. Now, the other thing I'd like to point out is, with regards to this entire conversation, we here at Universal Accounting Center also offer a program that is related to Royalwise, and it's that of becoming a QuickBooks specialist. It's essentially taking both QuickBooks Desktop and Online and becoming familiar with each of those. And I would encourage you to check out what that includes so that you can really become proficient in either. But the big thing here is QuickBooks Online. We want to recognize that that is where the strengths of the software lie. That is where the future is. And at the same time, really, if we can leverage those tools, those techniques, those shortcuts, we can become much more proficient and ultimately profitable in utilizing that tool to do the work that we do as accounting professionals. Now, as a summary of the conversation that we've had today, I do want to point out that she had an interesting beginning, as so many of my experts do. In her case, she obviously didn't come into the accounting profession as an accounting professional. She's an instructor, an excellent teacher. And in that course, she learned how to teach QuickBooks. And in teaching QBO, she started years ago, obviously offering traditional classroom instruction. And now it's all these various online courses. And I think it's just wonderful because she listens to the audience and identifies what they're needing and dives in and provides a specific program for each of those particular needs. And so that's fascinating. The thing I also enjoyed is how she addressed the different nuances between QuickBooks Desktop and online. QBD and QBO are distinctly different. And she talked about how she works with individuals to transition from one to the other. And I think that's important. That's a common conversation that I have. People have their preferences, and it's nice to know that there are all those advantages to using QuickBooks Online. The other thing that really stood out to me is the fact that when going and learning about QuickBooks, you can actually find out that there are a number of third-party vendors, particularly when you go to conferences, that can really add to your suite of services and complement the work that you're doing, whether it's internally or externally with your clients. There are a variety of things that you can take advantage of. And in doing so, really become the expert in the eyes of your clients and in the eyes of your staff as you implement these various tools. And to do them effectively and efficiently may require you're going to Royalwise to get that additional training. So all these things are very insightful. I really appreciate having Alicia on the show. She's very informative, obviously knows what she's talking about. She is in the know with Intuit, and so I'm grateful to have her here. So, Alicia, do you have a closing thought?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing to do is to help accounting firm owners with their training, whether it's for their team or for their clients. Because if you're finding yourself saying the same thing over and over again, or having to create your own training materials, I want to help you not have to recreate the wheel, especially since QBO evolves over time. It's live software. And so instead of having to recreate your own trainings and explain the same concept to 6 different clients and over again 6 different times until it finally sinks in, my favorite thing to do is to partner with you to help relieve that burden so that you can focus on what you do best.
Love it. Love it. Well, for all the listeners, I do want to thank you for being on the show. Very informative. Loved our conversation. For everyone, I also want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to this podcast. Each and every week, we're going to have on the experts to discuss those various things that you need to be working on to be the premier owner of your accounting firm, bookkeeping practice, tax firm. And in this process, educate you on those things that you can do to, in fact, get paid what you're worth. So definitely subscribe, set those notifications, and in doing so, go back and also listen to our past episodes and hear what the other experts have already shared. You can binge watch those and really get some great insights. I also want to invite you to GrowCon. It's an annual event for business owners. It is meant to actually help you as you're working on your business to, in fact, have that premier accounting firm. It's here where we talk about various topics related to marketing and sales, growing your business, offering quality accounting services, and lastly, doing the work efficiently and profitably. So come work on your business, step aside, and in doing so, basically become the leader you need to be at GrowCon. We also want to mention that not only is this podcast available to you, but there are a number of other free resources at universalaccounting.com that you can take advantage of to help you work on your business. Check out those free resources. They are exactly that, free. And in doing so, I'm sure you'll find a variety of tools that you can use in your business today to, in fact, help you become the leader that you need to be and implement very proven technologies in your company. And lastly, if obviously these principles are of interest to you, you can reach out to us at Universal Accounting. You can contact us at 801-265-3777, or you can visit us online at universalaccountingschool.com. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day. Be safe out there.